Tonight, we face a crisis not in some distant land but right here at home, across the fields and small towns that have long been the backbone of America. These are the places where generations have risen before dawn, working the soil to feed not just their families, but the entire nation. Now, American farms are collapsing under the weight of challenges they never expected to face. Fields that once promised abundance now lie empty or unplanted, and the consequences of this crisis will reach every kitchen table, from rural communities to bustling cities. The impact is personal and immediate. Families are already feeling the strain as food prices climb and choices shrink. The security of our meals, something we've always taken for granted, is suddenly uncertain. For the first time in nearly 60 years, the U.S. faces a massive agricultural trade deficit, projected at nearly $50 billion. This isn't just a number, it's a sign that our food system is out of balance. We're now importing more food than we export, a reversal that signals deep trouble in the heartland. Our grocery stores are increasingly stocked with food grown far from home, while American crops go unsold. This isn't a fluke or a temporary setback. It's the result of years of policy decisions and global pressures that have left American farmers stranded, their markets in chaos, and their futures uncertain. Generations of farmers, once the backbone of our economy and our communities, are now losing the markets they spent decades building. Family farms are being sold and the legacy of hard work is slipping away. The stability we've always counted on, affordable, abundant food, is at risk. Shoppers are seeing higher prices and fewer options, while farmers face empty grain bins and mounting uncertainty. This crisis isn't just about farmers, it's about our food security, our economy, and America's place in the world. If we lose our farms, we lose a vital part of who we are as a nation. Understanding what's happening is the first step to stopping this emergency before it's too late. We must ask hard questions, demand answers, and support those who feed us. The silence from the fields is a warning we can't ignore. It's a call to action for every American who cares about the future of our food. The future of our food supply is on the line. We must pay attention, now, before the Heartland's warning becomes a reality we all must face. The crisis began with aggressive tariffs imposed by the Trump administration in early 2025. These sweeping measures were intended to protect American industries and force trading partners to the negotiating table. But the consequences were swift and far-reaching, setting off a chain reaction that no one fully anticipated. Instead of protecting American interests, these tariffs triggered a global trade war. Markets around the world responded with uncertainty and volatility as countries scrambled to adjust to the new reality. The stock market tumbled, and international trade routes were thrown into chaos. Our closest partners, Canada, Mexico, and China, hit back with their own tariffs targeting U.S. farmers. These retaliatory measures were carefully chosen to inflict maximum pain on American agriculture, a sector already operating on thin margins. Suddenly, doors to our biggest export markets slammed shut. Shipments that once flowed freely were halted, and American goods piled up at ports with nowhere to go. Countries that once relied on American crops turned to Canada and others for stability. New trade relationships were quickly formed, and American farmers found themselves locked out of markets they had spent decades building. Farmers watched as contracts vanished, and entire seasons of work were lost overnight. The uncertainty was crushing, with many left wondering how they would survive the year. The tariffs weren't a shield, they were a self-inflicted wound. Instead of protection, they brought hardship and exposed the vulnerability of rural America. In April, China canceled the largest U.S. pork order in years. Hay exporters saw shipments decimated. These losses rippled through the entire supply chain, affecting everyone from truck drivers to small-town businesses. These weren't just numbers, they were devastating losses for real businesses and families. Rural communities faced layoffs, bankruptcies, and a growing sense of despair as livelihoods disappeared. The very policies meant to make America stronger have dismantled one of its most vital industries. The ripple effects are still being felt, as the backbone of rural America struggles to recover. Our farmers are left with crops they can't sell and futures in jeopardy. The trade war's legacy is a stark reminder of how quickly prosperity can turn to crisis. The fallout from failed trade policy has hit rural America hard. Farmers face lost income, soaring costs, and strict equipment rules that make survival even harder. Family farm bankruptcies have surged, each one a family losing their home and legacy. When farms fail, small towns suffer, layoffs, shrinking tax bases, and empty main streets. The crisis radiates outward, creating a cycle of economic despair. Rural communities, the backbone of our nation, are being hollowed out. Hope is replaced by anxiety and betrayal. The dominoes keep falling, lost contracts, shuttered businesses, families forced to leave. This is the heavy price of a trade war, paid by those who can least afford it. America's farm crisis doesn't stop at our borders, it's fueling a global food emergency. The US was the world's breadbasket. Now, as our exports falter, hunger spreads worldwide. Nearly 300 million people in 53 countries already face acute food insecurity. With the US hobbled, the global supply chain is dangerously fragile. When American grain shipments are canceled, families in drought-stricken nations go hungry. Spikes in food prices push millions more into poverty. The reliability of American agriculture was a cornerstone of global food security. Now it's crumbling. By failing our farmers, we're failing the world's most vulnerable. The cost of this crisis will be measured in human lives. You may not be a farmer, but this crisis is coming for you, on your dinner plate and in your wallet. The challenges facing American agriculture are not just distant headlines. They're about to hit home in ways that affect every family, every meal, and every budget. As American farms collapse, food prices rise and grocery bills climb. The cost of basics like bread, milk, and vegetables is already stretching household budgets, forcing many to make tough choices at the checkout line. Our growing reliance on imports makes us vulnerable to global shocks. When we depend on food from far away, any disruption, whether it's a shipping delay or a foreign crisis, can leave our shelves empty and prices soaring. Agriculture supports millions of jobs. When farms fail, the whole economy suffers. It's not just farmers, truck drivers, factory workers, and small businesses all feel the impact when agriculture is in crisis. Fewer jobs mean less spending, weaker businesses, and a weaker America. Communities shrink, opportunities vanish, and the ripple effects touch every corner of the country. The prosperity of our nation is tied to the health of our heartland. When our farms thrive, so do our towns, our cities, and our future. We can't afford to be passive while a pillar of our country is dismantled. The loss of our farms is the loss of our independence, our security, and our way of life. Understanding this crisis is the first step. Awareness leads to action, and action can bring about real change for our farmers and our food supply. Supporting sensible trade policies and our farmers is the next. By standing together, we can protect our food, our jobs, and our communities. The fate of American farming is tied to us all. Helping them is helping ourselves. Our choices today will shape the meals, jobs, and communities of tomorrow.